This hour, suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Chokonu files fresh suit at the High Court seeking a declaration that Shining Stars, a petitioner in the ongoing hearing against her, does not exist in law.
Also this afternoon, government announces the immediate withdrawal of military protection for all civilians who are not legally entitled to such services, including some public officials.
A lot later, the Minority Caucus calls on the president to urgently lift the ban on the sale of public lands, warning the country may face a litany of judgment debts should this embargo continue.
You're live on TV3 and this is News Central. I'm Kemini Amano.
And I am Mawina Igbeta. The bulletin starts right now.
Now let's talk about that military detail withdrawal for certain people, because there will be no more military protection for civilians and persons in government. That's the latest announcement by the Minister for Defense, Dr. Edward Omane-Boamah, who says the state has taken all necessary steps and has withdrawn all military personnel serving in civilian-related functions. According to the minister, the decision aims to stop the misuse of military personnel for personal gains. He warned any military person found engaging in unauthorized guard duties or any such unauthorized duties will be sanctioned. How important is this move? We are joined by security analyst, retired Colonel Festus Abuaje. Colonel, thank you so much for joining us. But what will be your answer to that question? How important and crucial is this move by government?
Well, once again, thanks for having me. I posted somewhere that this decision is long overdue. To start with, there is no way and no reason why professional armed forces should be deployed to perform those kinds of tasks that were outlined in the directive. You could interpret it to mean that what we normally call civil oversight or civil control of the armed forces collapsed completely. And it is only now that the incoming administration, using the appropriate institution, that is the Armed Forces Council, is regaining that control or re-establishing that control and directing that all military personnel undertaking such duties must be withdrawn. I wouldn't want to call it mission creep, because this is not what the Constitution says the armed forces personnel should be doing. And if they had been doing tasks that related to their constitutional mandate and then, crept a bit outside of their boundaries, that is fine. But this is not what the armed forces, was set up to do. Now, I think I wrote an article, but I can't even remember, before the start. And in that article, there was information that some of the commanders were deploying the troops to perform these tasks in order to generate what you call IGF.
I see.
Which they use for barrack maintenance, in other words, fixing broken, rooms, accommodation, whatever it is. Now, that would suggest that the armed forces budget for managing the armed forces, the government's budget that we call the defense budget, is not sufficient.
Right.
So the directive is welcome. But then on the other hand, the government should recognize that the money that it is making available to the Ghana Armed Forces may not be sufficient. And therefore, it needs to address that kind of budget shortfall.
But Colonel, to even think of it, why would the Ghana Armed Forces want to generate IGF by selling off its very sacred services, so to speak? To the best of your knowledge, how widespread was this?
Well, I think up to now, it became very endemic in several institutions. So if you take an institution or a unit like 1BN in Tema, Michel Kam, to be precise, now given the businesses in and around Tema, there was ready opportunities for people to request military assistance to secure, to protect, to do A, B, C, D. So, in a way, it was what I refer to as a mission creep. But my understanding of the whole narrative is that civilian control over the armed forces totally collapsed. Among others, because the administration itself, not now, prior, was misapplying the armed forces to do things that the armed forces shouldn't do. And the analogy is that if you ask anybody to do things that they should not be doing for you, in time, they might start doing the same things to help themselves. That's the only way I can interpret it. But constitutionally, this government is only, as it said in that chapeau, resetting. Because the armed forces are not enrolled to do these kinds of things.
Right.
And nobody in this country, I mean, some of the peoples that were mentioned, are not entitled to military protection, including, what do you call this, socially afford areas, some of these expensive estates, where chief executives living in those estates were recruiting soldiers to go and guard their premises, and invariably end up pounding fufu and that kind of thing so that they cannot. I mean, the whole thing is unprofessional. Totally unprofessional. So even if the military hasn't got anything to do, the soldiers should remain in barracks so they don't get exposed, to civilians as police, excuse my language, might do.
Indeed, Colonel, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for talking to us. Colonel retired Festus Abuaje is a security analyst. We've just been discussing that military security detail to some public officials and civilians alike. Government has now banned any such move, and any military personnel caught in the company of such people providing such private services will be sanctioned.
Let's stay with matters of defense, because the Parliamentary Select Committee on Defense and Interior is paying a working visit to the Ghana Immigration Service as part of its oversight responsibility. The visit is expected to give members first-hand insight into the service's achievements, ongoing challenges, and the support it may require. Noble Crosby Annan is with the Select Committee. He's joining us right now with a bit more details. Crosby, he's joined us via the phones. Walk us through the interactions between the Select Committee and then the agency they visited today. What's been the concerns and the conversations which have come up?
The Select Committee's efforts to oversee the happenings concerning the Ministry of the Interior and the Ghana Immigration Service falls squarely under the Ministry of Interior as well as some other security services in the country. Today, the objective mainly is to get to know firsthand what has been happening at the Immigration Service, as well as present an opportunity for the Immigration Service officials, including the Comptroller General of the Immigration Service, to open up to them and tell them what their challenges have been over the past couple of months since the NDC administration came into office, as well as to share their success story with the Select Committee on the Defense and Interior in Parliament. So essentially, this is what this visit is about. The Comptroller General of the Ghana Immigration Service has been grateful to the committee. The committee has helped the service in terms of legislation, procedural legislation, drafting bills, amongst all that. So, Samuel Batintalam, he's the Controller General of Immigration. He has been grateful for them, to them, and he's saying that the committee does more. The committee continues to support the service in the quest to be properly prepared to protect the borders of the nation.
All right, let's hear from the chair of the Defense and Interior Committee as has he addressed the gathering, and then we'll come back to you as for the response from the Comptroller General.
This morning is in fulfillment of our constitutional mandate, which is, amongst others, to oversight the Interior Ministry, of which the Ghana Immigration Service is an integral part, and of course, defense. Previously, we used to oversight intelligence as well, but intelligence has been hived off, which is why my colleague, Dr. Rollins, introduced herself as the chair of the Security and Intelligence Committee. So our mission is very simple and straightforward. We have had opportunity to engage with you time without number. Personally, this is not the first time I have come to your headquarters. We've been here a couple of times, but Parliament's own arrangements are such that from time to time we have a 4-year mandate. After the expiration of 4 years, we go to the polls. Sometimes members will decide voluntarily not to seek re-election. Others, unfortunately, will lose out.
And Crosby, the Comptroller General, spoke as well. What did he say? Did he have concerns he was hoping Parliament could help them address?
Well, Moana, the meeting is happening behind closed doors, so the media is not allowed to be part of the in-depth discussions at the two sides of the House. I'm talking about the Immigration Service as well as the Select Committee and Defense and Interior. But before the media was asked to go out, he was talking about they needing more support from the Select Committee so that they can champion their work more for them, equip them with the needed resources so that they would be able to do what is expected of them. He's also been grateful for the help so far. He's only asking for more. This closed-door session is presenting an opportunity so that they can, if you like, bear their hearts out to the Select Committee so that the committee will then follow up and help them with all that they need.
Let's hear from him as well.
Of our, supporters, and on behalf of the entire personnel of the service, I want to say thank you and pray that once it comes to plenary, you also help push it through for us to enable us continue to protect Ghana's borders, to keep all of us within the country safe. I wouldn't say much for now. After the initial remarks, we will have a short presentation that will give you an overview of the GIS, our current status, our key challenges.
Right then, Crosby, thank you very much. That's my colleague Noble Crosby, and also we heard the Comptroller General of the Ghana Immigration Service as well speaking during that interaction. And Noble Crosby Annan is with the Select Committee on Defense and Interior, who visited the Ghana Immigration Service. We'll move away from that, and the Interior Minister says government is reviewing the small arms bill that was unable to see passage in the 8th Parliament. Speaking to the media in Accra, Muntaka Mubarak says plans are far advanced to digitalize all arms in the country as a means to deal with the proliferation of illicit arms. Meanwhile, the Inspector General of Police has submitted the election report to the President covering 2020 and the 2024 general elections.
Well, the small arms bill is under review. You know, it takes, one of the challenges we have Well, but you can't call it a challenge. That's the kind of democracy that we have everywhere around the world. You may even lay a bill in Parliament. Once that Parliament elapses, you have to start the process all over again. Community engagement, to cabinets, and all that. So we are back to ground zero, and we have been working. And I'm sure after here you can interview the Executive Secretary. He will tell you we are working assiduously on that to be able to get it back to Parliament. And hopefully, it's our hope that if we are able to present it before Parliament rises, maybe by the end of the year, we should be able to have something on our decks with regards to the small arms. I know one of the major challenges that we have with small arms in our country is that there seems to be a lot of arms in the hands of our citizens, and we are taking steps to get weapon detection systems where we can be doing wholesale stops, random checks, random sweepings, so that we'll be able to collect the guns. But we want to get those equipment, then we can announce a period within which those who want to voluntarily submit them to us to submit it, maybe so with some reward, or those who want to keep it lawfully will take the necessary steps and register them properly. Well, that's part of what we are digitalizing, to make sure that if I pick a gun, I should be able to just look at the serial number and be able to tell who it is for, because your Ghana card is linked to it. If I pick a bullet, I should be able to tell this bullet was imported by Mr. A, and Mr. A sold it to Mr. B, and this bullet was fired from the gun of Mr. A. So that's some of the things that we are trying to do, and we are very hopeful that maybe by the course of the year, we can get all these things digitalized, and that may help us to track those who are keeping these arms illegally and unlawfully. Yes, the IGP is reminding me that he's just submitted the 2020 and 2024 election violence report. So I'm sure we'll peruse it and quickly maybe make it known to the general public.
Now, Zabila MP Ebenezer Ndebila has called on the Defense Minister to urgently investigate the circumstances that led to the destruction of the statue of the Zugran of Kusog traditional area. A military-led operation on Sunday, June 13th, allegedly led to the destruction of a statue in honor of the Asigiri Aburago Azoka II, raising tensions in the area. The lawmaker also wants the current military personnel in the area withdrawn. His concerns follow earlier statements by the Defense Minister, Dr. Mane Buama, and the Bawku Central MP, Mahama Yariga, who have both condemned the incidents and called for cool heads to prevail while investigations are carried out.
Not only was the statue shot at and pulled down by the military, but it was set ablaze by the military. What was the crime of the statue? Who was their target? Your guess is as good as mine. The people of Kusau have lost hope in the current military presence in Bawku. We think our overlord is not safe with this present military presence in Bawku. It is pretty obvious these callous military officers were after the life of our overlord, and thus cannot be the same people parading themselves as peacemakers in Bawku. As a result, ladies and gentlemen, I called on the Minister of Defense and the National Security to act as a matter of urgency and withdraw the entire military force from Bawku and replace a new set. It is our belief that the current military personnel had long been tainted and corrupted and have therefore lost the moral uprightness in providing professional security protection for the people of Kusau. This is not a plea, ladies and gentlemen, of the media, but as citizens who duly pay our taxes, we demand that the commander and his men be immediately withdrawn in our community. Yesterday's action by the military must be thoroughly investigated, and the said military officers who destroyed the statue of the overlord identified and punished for their unprofessional and barbaric act.
Let's move away from this. And the suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu has filed fresh action at the High Court seeking a declaration that Shining Stars does not exist in law. The organization is behind one of the petitions seeking the removal of the Chief Justice. Lawyers for the Chief Justice say there are no records showing the existence of any such organization. And this afternoon, we've seen a copy of that suit. We'll seek to walk you through it and the relief she's seeking from the High Court in this latest suit as well. And that's what we want to do for you right now, just quickly, as with regards the Chief Justice's latest action at the High Court. There's an update as well on that review, judicial review she sought. We'll bring you details of that shortly. But here's what she's been asking the High Court to do in respect to Shining Star. She wants, first, a declaration that Shining Stars of Ghana does not exist in law. It's the first argument she's making and is hoping that the High Court can agree with her on. The second is a declaration that the petition to the president allegedly authorized by Shining Stars of Ghana is void on account of the fact that they do not exist. And so she makes the argument that, look, we've gone through the records. This is a non-existent entity. And so a non-existent entity should not be able to take a petition to the president seeking my removal. On that basis, she is praying the High Court that they declare the entire petition as null and void. Is one of the many things she's seeking the court do for her. The third is that the purported prima facie determination in respect of Shining Stars of Ghana is null and void. And so she's leaning in through that initial argument that the company does not exist, and so the petition should be declared null and void. Then the determination which was reached by the president in conjunction with the Council of State in that prima facie determination against her also follows through and be declared null and void. And then the last thing she's seeking, an order to bring up into this court for the purpose of quashing and accordingly caution the purported prima facie determination of findings made by the president in consultation with the Council of State. She wants a further step taken by the High Court to quash that prima facie determination in respect of the petition as was brought by Shining Star. But we understand that the Minister for Government Communication has been responding recently to a number of these claims even before they went to court. We'll hear from him right now, and then we'll bring you updates also on that judicial review she's been seeking at the High Court, which we understand hearing was happened today. And we'll get details of that for you as well. But let's hear from the Minister for Government Communications.
First of all, I'm not sure whether there are provisions covering this, whether there's a requirement for authenticity, as it were. There were also individuals. How do you authenticate the individuals? What matters is that they have raised issues. And the Chief Justice was given opportunity by the President and the Council of State to provide initial responses, which then form the basis of the determination of a prima facie. The President, in consultation with the Council of State, came to the conclusion that there was a basis to proceed further. The President then, in accordance with Article 1466, I believe, set up the committee, as spelled out by the Constitution, and gave them the petitions to look into. The processes have been ongoing for quite some time now. So as far as the President is concerned, every law, rule, or regulation or process that has to be adhered to has been respected. So I do not know how this particular matter in any way impinges on the integrity of the process that has gone on so far. But then again, the Chief Justice has had cause, at least on 5 occasions. The Chief Justice and others, I must indicate, have had cause at least on 5 occasions to go to the Supreme Court to seek redress in the matter. And on all occasions, the Supreme Court has upheld the process as is currently underway. And so that, for me, should resolve the issue beyond any reasonable doubt.
Well, I mentioned there's some updates from the court for you in relation to the judicial review she sought, because lawyers for her have today urged an Accra High Court for an expedited hearing. This is the case in which she's hoping to stop the 5-member committee from probing the petition seeking her removal from office. The lawyers also told the court they can only appear on Wednesdays and Fridays because of the committee's proceedings. They therefore asked for hearings to be handled expeditiously. The court has meanwhile set July 23 to hear legal argument whether the Attorney General's request for the case filed by the Chief Justice should be dismissed. And so that's the latest. The lawyers of the CJ are asking for expedited hearings. The court as well has set July 23 to hear arguments as put forth by the Attorney General's office. I'm praying, amongst many other things, for the dismissal of the CJ's argument, and that's what we know thus far, and we'll bring you details of that if you stay with us a bit more here on TV3.
Now, the minority in Parliament has called on the President to urgently lift the ban on the sale of public lands, warning the country may face a litany of judgment deaths should this embargo continue. Reading a statement on the floor on Monday, Member of Parliament for Sobin Kofi Obri Yeboah noted that the President's directive to halt the sale of state lands is causing severe havoc. His colleague, MP for Wejagbawe, Jerry Ahmed Shaib, added his voice to the issue, indicating that land guards have taken over many public lands.
The President's decision may aim at safeguarding public lands for the benefit of Ghanaians. This directive may also affect individuals, corporate entities who may have legitimately acquired interests in these lands. Although the directives by the President to halt all state transactions may have been issued with good intentions, it may pose serious challenges. Registration of state-owned lands, such as the Osumanche layout, which are often owned by individuals and corporate entities, are now in limbo. It deprived the private investor, both individuals and corporate bodies, to use their legally acquired lands to secure loans from the bank. If indeed the government thinks that the private sector is the engine of growth, then the government, as a matter of urgency, should lift the ban. If care is not taken, the state will be saddled with a lot of court actions and judgment debts. As you speak, Mr. Speaker, several individuals and corporate entities have secured court judgment in respect of state lands against the Lands Commission. The Lands Commission, however, is unable to comply with the court judgment as a result of these directives.
Land guardism is now on the high. Is now on the high. Land guardism is the order of the day. Mr. Speaker, unless my friends do not want to bear with me and to learn from me the truth, obviously not a bad step. But consequentially, what we have seen over the period, Mr. Speaker, lands which have been acquired by individuals who had to go through proper legal processes, Mr. Speaker, are being taken from them by all manner of people, including people now labeling themselves as national security operatives. They enter into people's lands, in fact, including ones which have been registered and have been properly titled. They enter, forcefully take, and it brings about a lot of problems, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I speak with you, there are individuals who are even now fighting chiefs to claim lands that belong to government just because of this directive.
Now, in a response to that, the Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Yusuf Suleimana, emphasized that the President acted lawfully in an attempt to investigate the looting of state assets, adding that government will not lose revenue by that singular action. Other members on the majority side stressed the need for the political class to protect state properties from persons who wield influence and attempt to use illegal means to acquire those assets.
His Excellency the President acted lawfully. I thought I would have been praising him, because in your own statement, you said that the president did what he did in order to safeguard government lands. That's an admission that indeed what he has done is the right thing. It tells you that indeed there's a problem. It tells you that there's a need for the president to investigate, okay, the sale of government lands over this period. I heard somebody asking why 2017 to date. Under the previous administration, there was a committee that investigated the sale of land between a certain period ending in 2016. And so there won't be the need for you to go back and do investigation when those investigations have already been done. We are also told that government is going to lose revenue because as people who are now willing to pay their revenue taxes are not paying. It doesn't mean that when the ban is lifted, they won't pay those monies. So no money is going to be lost.
President Mahama is law-abiding president of the Republic. Yes, it's true. Yes, it's true that he issued a directive on 10th of January 2025 to sanitize land acquisition in Ghana. And Mr. Speaker, those who lawfully and genuinely acquire their lands should not worry about the consequence of these directives. What the president sought to do was to have first-hand information on who got what, when, how, and for how much. And then, Mr. Speaker, to specifically deal with those who, in the name of influence and authority, are grabbing public lands against the public interest and not even acquiring land.
I hear people talk about the political class, I hate the notion that as a political class, we should conspire to loot property, we should conspire to be corrupt, we should conspire to divest the state of its assets. Mr. Speaker, the people voted us to protect those assets, and we must be seen doing that.
That's the majority leader. But away from Parliament, the Minister for Roads and Highways, Kwame Govins-Agbodza, is currently on a one-day working tour to inspect key road projects in Aveime and along the Eastern Corridor area. One of the major projects under inspection is the 23.9-kilometer Esuchare-Livo Aveime Road, which is under the Big Push agenda, the $53 million project funded by the Africa Development Bank and OPEC and executed by China Jiangxi International Economic and Technical Cooperation Company, began in December 2024 and is expected to be completed by 2026. The tour comes ahead of the expected release of some $4 billion as well this month to offset part of the 21 billion cedis debt owed to road contractors across the country. Deborah Abba-Mensah is a part of that tour. She's joining us right now with details. Deborah, can you tell us the state of the project as was inspected by the minister?
Okay, Marina, the Esuchare-Livo Aveime Road, which forms part of the larger Eastern Corridor Road Development Project, is currently under construction. The project valued at $63 million and funded by the African Development Bank and OPEC was awarded to China and Jiangxi International and Commerce in December 2024 and is expected to be completed in December 2020.
Hello, Deborah. Well, it does appear the telephone lines may have not helped us, but we understand the minister raised issues on the growing trend of deliberate encroachment on road corridors where individuals erect structures solely to demand compensation. He's been speaking to that. Let's hear him.
It makes sense, but I'll be surprised that after you did a diversion to or a bypass to avoid the situations, you are still talking about compensation of structures significantly. Of course, if the project was approved and the right-of-way established before anybody goes to build in the right-of-way, we are under no obligation to honor because it's becoming a habit of some people that immediately they know government intends to build a road along a certain corridor. People take advantage to go and build in the right-of-way, hoping that they'll be compensated. And that must not be encouraged because when the project is being put together in terms of cost, and then there was no structure there, the cost does not include the new structures that will come after the cost has been settled. And in a particular project like this where AFDD and other people are there, when they settle the cost, you can't just come back and say that, unfortunately, when we went back home, we saw another 2 buildings in the right-of-way. So the law must apply. If somebody, of course, those who crops and other things you are going to destroy, you need to compensate. But rice doesn't grow for 1 year. So I would have been, if it's compensation for where they farm, I will understand. Rice, 3 months, 4 months, it's yielding. So what compensation are we paying? Are we compensating the person for being deprived of where he or she farms, or we are paying for the crop itself? Because the crop couldn't have been there since last year. The same crop. It's not like palm trees or cocoa. So we need to get an understanding of that. We'll get an understanding of who is supposed to pay the compensation and why it's delayed.
That's Gavin Kwame Agboja, the Minister for Roads and Highways, who will take us on to our very first break here on the Bulletin. When we return, big news by the government to scrap fuel allowances for all government appointees. We have the details for you and hopefully speak to the government on how they intend implementing this. Stay with us for details.
Reporting from the Takoradi Market Circle, from the heart of the Upper West Regional Capital,
from the heart of the Ashanti Kingdom,
reporting from Sunyani,
from the Central Business District of Navrongo.
The parliamentarians are on recess.
This is where it all unfolds, the moments that potentially alters the course of our nation and the world. These are the individuals we recognize, the voices we amplify, who appears on screen and who contributes behind the scenes. With professionalism at our core, we bring you news you can trust. Impact journalism that makes a difference. This illustrates how diverse perspectives enhance our strength and reinforces our mission. This is 3 News. Leaders in breaking news, exclusive interviews, facts and analysis on TV, radio, online and digital. 3 News, first in news.
Welcome back. It's still News Central here on TV3. I'm Kemini Amano. Now, President Mahama has scrapped the allocation of fuel allowances to all government appointees in what is expected to save the government millions of cedis. The announcement, captured in a release by Minister for Government Communications Felix Kwakye-Ofosu, follows other such initiatives by the current administration aimed at cutting costs after cancelling DSTV subscriptions for all government agencies. The decision by the president comes amid increasing demand by the Ghanaian people for leadership to take the lead in cutting expenditure. We'll now have a quick chat with Deputy Presidential Spokesperson Shamima Muslim, who's joined us via telephone. Shamima, good afternoon to you. How much is government hoping to save with this?
Oh, thank you very much. Beyond the cost, it's also the symbolism of a government that practices what it preaches and a government that wants to show leadership in action and also congruence to the values that it expects its own citizens to accept. So as we speak, the exact cost is still being computed and we will make it available to the public as soon as it is ready. As the directive was given today, it would take a few weeks to put the total cost together because the budgeting year has not ended. Usually you would have your budgetary reports based on your expenses towards the end of the year. So it's mid-year and this directive has come in, so it would take some time to compute how much we as a government have spent so far with regards to allocation, fuel allocations from January till this point.
I see. So how will this work in terms of its implementation?
So it's effective today. If you went to take your allocation for the week, if you hadn't done it yesterday and you went to take allocation for the week, to the extent that the directive has reached them, the fuel dispensers and their managers, you might not be able to take your allocation as of today.
Are there any exemptions?
So the exemption is that there will still be room for some regulated official travel and assignments. So for those regulated official travel and assignments, there will be room for the state to provide fuel for those particular travels. And as we did with the Code of Conduct for the government officials, there will be a written framework for the implementation of this program so that all appointees are aligned with regards to the kinds of travels that will make it to the official list of travels that will require state intervention in terms of fuel allocation. But otherwise, everyday commute to and from work, it's not government that will provide fuel for those ones.
Which brings me to the question of how we are going to differentiate those trips you have just alluded to those official work trips as well. If it's the same vehicle, how are we going to manage that?
They are all best practices. There are estimations that are done based on the work that you're supposed to do, where you're supposed to go. Even with the current system, it was not an unlimited allocation. As far as my office is concerned and my person is concerned, I think 2 months ago is when I started receiving a weekly allocation of fuel. Now, within the week, sometimes depending on the rounds you make, that allocation is exhausted, but you can't go for more until the week. So there is a specific allocation to you depending on which staff level you are in and what you do. And based on the same good guidelines, we should be able to make those determinations in time.
Let's talk about the earlier directive on DSTV subscription. Since its implementation, how has it gone so far? What can you tell us about it?
Right, I don't have information on that, but as you have asked, I'm going to follow up on that. But you should come around, you should visit offices, and you should see for yourself. Generally, many offices, except the exceptions, do not have DSTV subscriptions at all.
Shamima, pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much
for having us.
Indeed, Shamima Muslim is Deputy Presidential Spokesperson. We've just been talking about that latest directive to all government appointees. There will now be fuel allowances and allocation cancellation taking effect immediately. Now, we also know that some Ghanaians have welcomed the announcement by the government. In fact, a number of you who spoke to our news team say you are hopeful the savings can be channeled into other critical areas of the economy. Take a listen.
This is very good news. So when you look at the income gap between the political elite and the other civil servant, is yawning. And these people, aside getting all this, they still have fuel. Sometimes they misuse it. So if government can remove that subsidy from them and they can calculate that and use it to do specific intervention for the country, I think it will be good for us.
It's a good initiative by the government. And then if they have seen that, no, this is what will help the economy to grow up, then we don't have any issue with it. The only issue I have as a Ghanaian is we know this kind of thing that the government will bring an initiative and then they will take the monies, will not see the use of it. That is my problem. So if the monies will be taken and then it will boost the economy level for us to be comfortable in it as citizens, there's no problem with it. I have nothing to say that they shouldn't pass it. It should be a good one for the government and then for the country.
Well, it will help us so that they will use that money to do a different thing, or that will help all of us.
If they are going to do such that it will affect us, people will complain again, then I think maybe it shouldn't. But then if it's something that is not going to make everybody talk about it or something, I think, yeah, it should go on.
And to some other stories now, the government is in talks with development partners to secure additional funding for the Ghana Accountability for Learning Outcomes project, also known as SCALLOP. The initiative aims to support the revival of about 10,000 low-performing basic schools, particularly in deprived and economically disadvantaged communities. Deputy Minister of Education, Dr. Clement Appointee, revealed this during an engagement with education stakeholders here in the capital.
Provide teachers with continuous professional development, including in-service training, coaching, and digital learning content that enhances instructional delivery and learner engagement. Prioritize support for the lowest performing 10,000 basic schools, many of which are located in rural, hard to reach, and economically disadvantaged areas. Ensure inclusive education by addressing the needs of vulnerable learners, including girls, children with disabilities, and those in marginalized communities. Deliver resources such as school grants, teaching and learning materials, and digital tools in a targeted and equitable manner.
And that's the Deputy Education Minister, Dr. Clement Appointee, taking us to Regional Hub.
Now, some spare parts dealers at Swami Magazine in Kumasi are expressing frustration over lack of reduction in import duties at the ports, even as the cedi gains strength against major foreign currencies. The importers say they are paying even higher charges now, a situation they claim is severely hurting their businesses. They are therefore urging authorities to adjust duties to reflect the cedi's improved value, which would allow them to lower spare parts prices for customers. Ibrahim Abubakar is our Ashanti region correspondent, joining us for a bit more on the story. Ibrahim, let's talk about this specific challenge of import duties. What's the difference they're seeing?
Well, we do know that when the cedi started gaining strength against major currencies, people were excited because we thought that goods and services will drop. We've seen other sectors declining, but with regards to spare parts, they are saying that that is not the case, because currently when they go to the port, there has been some duties that have seen some level of adjustment from GRA. So for instance, things that they were initially paying for $500 has been increased to between $600, $700, which means that even though 1 cedi to a dollar is still 10.04 or 10.43, because of the increment from, let's say, $500 to $700, they will end up paying the same money they were paying a year or two ago in terms of the cedi value. So it means that they are not seeing any changes. That's how come when you move to the spare parts market, you realize that the prices remain the same. And they say that government will have to take that initiative and make sure that it implements its flat rate policy that it promised them. That way, we will see some level of reduction in the spare parts market, so that at least drivers and also others will feel it, and that will also translate in the reduction of spare prices, because often drivers complain that it's not only fuel that they work with, prices of spare parts also determine the prices they charge, I mean the fair prices. And for that matter, the spare parts dealers want this be done so that it will reflect on the ground. Let's listen to how they have been explaining the issue.
Have increment all the item prices. There is an adjustment. There is the item that they charge for maybe $7 or $5. Now it's about $10, $12. So the same duty that we are paying the time that there was 16 plus and 17 plus, that duty that we are paying is the same as now the dollar is 10 plus, the same duty. So how can you reduce the goods? That's why we are appealing the government, because so that people will not see us, we are the one that we don't want to comply.
We were clearing Voxy at 35,000 to 40,000 previously. But right now, as we speak now, it's about 50,000 to 60,000. There's been an appreciation of the value. It is on this note that we, Swami Spare Parts Dealers Association, are humbly calling on President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, to fulfill his promises at the flat rate duties at our port of entries. We will therefore be very pleased if the government would do everything possible to ensure our duties reflect the newly gained strength of the city, so that...
Well, Ibrahim, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for talking to us. Now let's come back to the capital city, where in response to traders' continued refusal to vacate roadside selling spots, Accra Mayor Michael Kpakpo Alote has announced the reintroduction of the Red Line initiative. The move is designed to promote the free movement of vehicle and pedestrians while curbing trading activities in unauthorized and illegal areas.
We're trying to build a small shops for the women to sell. We have an individual who is also a Ghanaian who says, okay, the way we are clearing them from the streets, they would love to volunteer and build a small shop that is affordable for the women to sell. But as it looks, the women say they don't want that. So there's a writing for the law enforcement as the mayor to make sure what the people want we do for them. We cannot rebuild anything there. From what we are seeing there, it's not a place we can build something there. It's not a place even to sell. But as of now, they don't have a shop to sell. So we are considering them for them to sell on the pavements. We are going to have a line for them, which you know about a favorite red line. So
that'll be all for Regional Hub.
Now, the Bank of Ghana Governor, Dr. Johnson Isiama, has urged the public to ignore speculative projections from black market forex traders that contradicts the bank's official data. Speaking at the Graphic Business Stanbic Bank breakfast meeting, he cautioned against relying on uninformed sources for currency expectations, which can lead to panic-driven financial decisions.
Ghana, the way we form our expectations when it comes to the exchange rate is to listen to the Zamana man, is to listen to the Alaji in the corner. And I think that's where the problem is. If you have a country whose trade surplus has doubled compared to last year, if you have a country whose current account has increased from a mere $66 million last year to over $2 billion in the first quarter of this year, why are you surprised when the exchange rate is showing stability? And so my point is, please look at the data, the media. Focus on the data. When you are forming your projections about the exchange rate or whatever variable, look at the data. It's all there. But you notice that in Ghana, we say the exchange rate is going down, and so it keeps going, it keeps going. You notice that trend? And I kept saying that no, allow the exchange rate to move. Today it may rise, tomorrow it may come down. Because it's an endogenous variable. When it moves, it's actually protecting the country against external shocks.
That's the BOG governor talking about the exchange rates.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know a good number of people who say, yes, excellent work, 10 CDs, but they'd love if it were lower.
If it drops, further. Maybe half that.
5 cities, eh?
We'll manage that. We'll manage that.
Right, we look forward to it. That's our bulletin for you this afternoon. I am Mawina.
And I am Kemeni Amano. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Next is the afternoon show. Bye-bye from us.